The original Bayonetta was released nearly 10 years ago. The game offered one of the most fast-paced, over-the-top experiences you could imagine. The series has evolved and grown in popularity since, with a critically acclaimed sequel on the Wii U to the titular character's appearance in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. There's no question that the franchise is here to stay. As we look ahead to future installments in this franchise, I've decided to go back to the beginning and play the game that started it all. As I had never played the game before until very recently, I went into this game and this review with more blank expectations than usual. That said, I know for certain you will enjoy this review for the original Bayonetta. Premise: in Bayonetta, you play as a witch, whose name is that of the titular character. For most of history, the world has been held in balance by two factions, Umbra Witches and Lumen Sages. Together, these entities form the eyes of the world. Bayonetta herself is an Umbra Witch, and at the start of her journey, Bayonetta is amnesic and doesn't fully remember who or what she is. With a little information from her informant Enzo and the eccentric shopkeeper Rodan, Bayonetta travels to Vigrid, a fictional city in Europe, in order to unpack and uncover her memories and regain her full knowledge and power. The game takes place among three planes of reality, one for heaven, one for hell, and one for purgatory. Bayonetta travels between these three planes over the course of the game. The premise is very unique and interesting for an action game. The story can be ridiculous, but it is also engaging and gripping for the most part. The writing and dialogue is witty and clever, even if there is a fair amount of obscenity and profanity sprinkled throughout. Bayonetta herself has become one of my favorite video game protagonists in recent years, as she has the power to manipulate time and space, summon monsters, and her personality is just funny and down to earth, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. Presentation. Bayonetta's presentation is quite strong. The visual style is a mix of neo-gothic and 1940s era noir style. Overall, the game is very pretty. That said, the colors can be a little too saturated at times for my taste, as there isn't a ton of tonal variety to the colors. Some of the textures also feel like they could be a little more crisp. The character models, on the other hand, specifically for Bayonetta, are excellent, and the lighting effects are top-notch. The effects themselves are very impressive, as there are sections and moments in this game where the camera will change perspective as you go from walking and fighting on the ground to moving around on walls. The soundtrack to this game is very fun and catchy. The sound design perfectly mixes with the fast-paced action of this game. The game's music is played at a fast and frantic tempo, and it works amazingly well for this game. It truly keeps the gameplay alive and interesting. Music manages to change to more ambient and angelic sounds in certain moments, and it perfectly changes its tempo depending on the situation of the gameplay. Presentation is pretty darn good overall, but one complaint I do have is with the menus. They can be a little tricky to manage and navigate. Once you get the hang of them, they aren't such a problem, but they can be annoying and frustrating to navigate, especially in the middle of a frantic gameplay section. I also took issue with some of the loading times in this game. That said, the art design, character models, and voice work are top-notch for this kind of action game. Gameplay. Bayonetta's control scheme can take a little while to fully grasp at first, but once you do, you won't have much trouble with the controls, most of the time. It's really a matter of getting yourself accustomed to the fast-paced nature of the game. Once you do, you realize that this is a game that's easy to play, but boy is it hard to master. Some of the mapping on the controls can feel a little off-putting at times, at least to me, but I did get the hang of it pretty early on, and didn't have too much issue with the controls from then on out. I did take some issue with the camera control in this game. Because the game is so fast-paced and action-packed, there were moments in the game where the camera got a little off the mark. This wasn't an issue most of the time, but it did cause some irritation in certain segments of the game, particularly during the final boss, unfortunately. Bayonetta is one of the most fast-paced video games I have ever played. The gameplay consists of hacking and slashing a wide swath of angels and demons, occasional puzzle solving, and defeating giant foes to advance to the next stage. The gameplay almost feels like a modern version of something like Double Dragon, but more fast-paced, of course. The gameplay has many instances that will take you from simply fighting on the ground to fighting on walls. The gameplay can get pretty wacky at times, trust me. Bayonetta takes on her enemies with a wide variety of abilities, ranging from martial arts fighting, using her pistols on her hands and feet to take out her enemies from long range, and even summoning monsters to deal some truly brutal yet satisfying finishing blows to her foes. Bayonetta's signature move, Witch Time, is used when she dodges an enemy's attack just as it's about to hit her, allowing our heroine to pull off some absolutely deadly combos. It feels like something out of the Matrix. Bayonetta can pull off all sorts of combos, and the gameplay, despite being mostly action, manages to stay and remain fresh most of the time. You can buy tons of extra abilities and even weapons from Mordan's shop, which increase your skill and fighting prowess. There are dozens of different kinds of enemies that you fight, and in every case you need to be on your toes, quickly studying your enemy's attack and honing your reflexes to the best of your foe. The game manages to have a fair bit of gameplay variety as well. While most of the game is an action-packed hack and slash, there are also segments where you will be riding a motorcycle at really high velocity speed, some ways in ways that feel straight out of an F-Zero game, or soaring through the air as you shoot down enemies. The game stays fresh and interesting from start to finish. The only aspect of the gameplay that frustrated me were the QuickTime events, as they almost always came out of nowhere and left little room for a second of air. The game has some truly ginormous boss fights, some of the biggest I have ever seen. These behemoths will tower over you and often have many stages to fully take them down. You will be scaling some of these giants Shadow of the Colossus style and hacking their arms, legs, and heads to pieces to take them down. There are several boss fights in the game, and they all pose different levels of threat and intensity. Taking each one down is an incredibly satisfying experience, as you're treated to seeing Bayonetta use her witch powers to summon a giant demon to consume and devour the enemy. This game is hard, and you will die a lot on your first playthrough, trust me. Much of the footage taken while playing this game is just of me dying over and over again. Fear not though, as the game has a plentiful number of checkpoints. You can buy goodies at Rodin's shop, such as green lollipops which refill your life gauge, and other items that offer temporary bonuses and abilities. The difficulty can be a bit unbalanced at times, and what that means is that the game doesn't always get progressively more difficult, as there are times in the game where the difficulty spike comes in seemingly out of nowhere, only to go down a bit before coming back again even more. All in all, Bayonetta has awesome, fast-paced, and incredibly exciting gameplay that is reinforced with tight controls and features some awesome and varied enemies and boss fights. Replay value. This game has quite a lot of replay value actually. After you beat any given level, you're free to go back and play it anytime you want. You can do this to beat your previous time and improve your score. There are optional journals hidden throughout the levels as well that give more background to the lore of the game and its world. After you beat each level, you also have this surprisingly fun and addicting arcade-style shooting minigame, where you must shoot as many flying angels flying around the screen as possible with your limited amount of bullets. You can also buy several collectible items from Mordan's shop and reassemble certain musical records and tracks. After beating the game once, you unlock hard mode, giving you the option to play through the game on an even harder difficulty. If you have the Wii U or Nintendo Switch version of the game, then you can even unlock extra costumes inspired by some of Nintendo's most famous mascots. Needless to say, there is a lot to do in this game, and plenty of reason to go back and play it even after completion. The negative. While I loved my experience with this game, it isn't perfect. As I already mentioned earlier, the difficulty is often unbalanced and it fluctuates throughout the course of the game. The camera angle also has its issues. The biggest case of this, unfortunately, was during the final boss fight for me, which I will not show in this video for spoiler purposes. While the setting of the fight is epic, the camera angle and the movements made fighting it a pain in the neck. There are a few other instances of this happening throughout the course of the game. My other big issue with this game are the QuickTime events. I don't generally like them in any game, and here it's no different. These events occur during cutscenes without any indication that they're coming, and the screen will give you a half-second prompt to tap the correct button in order to make Bayonetta pull off a correct scenario. Failing to do this usually results in instant death, and there were many instances of this happening that made me want to rip my hair out. For example, you might see a cutscene of a bridge about to fall on your head, only to see the screen prompting you to press the Y button, giving you exactly a second to do so. It's just annoying and frustrating. My other big issue with this game are these stupid crab crustacean enemies that you fight at certain points of the game. These things move way too fast and hit way too hard. Seriously, these guys are harder than some of the bosses, and I just hate them. I don't know what else to say. Despite some flaws, Bayonetta is an awesome, action-packed, and incredibly satisfying experience. I enjoyed nearly every minute I had with this game. This is a game that I would highly recommend getting if you own an Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and now a Wii U or Nintendo Switch. Moreover, this game kicked off an awesome game series that gave us an even better sequel, with a third installment on the way. You should definitely give this game your attention. As for what I'm scoring the game, I had a few factors to consider. Core gameplay is fantastic, and overall design and pacing are really good too. That said, there were some issues with this title that did hinder the experience somewhat, such as the fluctuating difficulty, quick-time events, and camera issues. That does not, however, take away from the fact that this is still an exceptional action-packed hack-and-slash video game. With that noted, I am going to award this game with a 4.45 out of 5. Booyah! And now for the last word. I had tons of fun finally covering this game. My next game review will be for none other than Batman Arkham City, in celebration of the Dark Knight's 10th anniversary. After that, though, I will be reviewing one of 2 retro video games in August, and I'll give you guys a chance to choose which one I do. The choices are Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, both fantastic classic gaming experiences. Let me know which of these 2 games you want to see me review next. Please like this video, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Check my Facebook and Twitter account in the description below, along with my gameplay channel, which I will put a link to. Peace out, y'all, and have a happy day.